United are the champions of Europe again.
Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. I'm joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad. You?
Not bad at all. Not bad. It's nice to be through to the FA Cup fourth round, unlike certain other northern teams. We're also joined by Waz. You probably know him better by his Twitter handle, United Analytics. Waz, how you doing?
Yeah, mate, not bad. Looking forward to the game tomorrow, to be honest. If we win that, we're in a good position coming this turnover of the month, and we don't know if we'll invest in January, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've definitely got hope. So now, before we move on to the video, we're about 8 subscribers on YouTube away from 100, and it'd be massive if we could hit that. So if you're watching, go over to YouTube and press subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. But we'll move on to the video then. So we want to talk today about 3 signings that United could make this window to really boost them into real Premier League title winning contenders. So we've all drawn up like a 3-man shortlist, haven't we? I think that I'm assuming everyone has. We're awkward if you haven't, but we're just going to go through them and sort of explain sort of why we've chosen them and what benefit they'll have to the team. Now, if you've got any suggestions while you're watching, be sure to drop them in the comments below. But without any further ado, Henry, do you want to kick us off with your first player?
Let's do it. Right, this isn't a signing per se. Well, it would count to me sort of as a signing, but we need competition at right back. Seriously, and I know Brandon Williams is, he's okay. He's not ready. I don't think he was okay against Watford. Wasn't fantastic. Nothing special. Not glamorous. His final pass just isn't very good. So I think we need kind of more attacking quality. So I've gone with 2 options for this. Dalot has been doing really well at AC Milan. I don't know whether anyone's watched him there. I've seen some of the games he's played. He hasn't played many. He's only played like 7, but he's coming into the side now, kind of progressing through. And he's competing with Calabria for that right-back spot, which is a difficult thing to do because Calabria is very good going forward. Scored against Juve last week, I believe. And, a very, very good player. So he's competing and getting the better of him at times. So, they really like him, and I do too. And I think loaning him out was a bit of a mistake personally because we're left with Fosu Mensah, who's obviously going to go now to Leverkusen by the looks of it, and Brandon Williams. So, I think we need to bring him back if there's an option to do that. If not, we can hold off, I guess. But I think if we don't get another right back title contention, forget it. Genuinely forget it. Wan-Bissaka gets injured or anything of the sort, and we're in big trouble, I think. So we need a cover right back. Dalot is good enough for me to not only compete but be better than Wan-Bissaka, especially going forward, which is what you need. You need attacking fullbacks these days. Defensive ones are great. Don't get me wrong; they're fantastic. Wan-Bissaka can tackle, and he's good sometimes on the ball, especially deeper. But I don't know. He looks uncomfortable to me when he's going forward, and he used to be a winger, so I don't know what Palace were doing with him. So, we need a right back. We need cover. I know people mention Max Aarons, but Max Aarons for me, we've got a right back in waiting in Dalot. Why waste 20 million, which you could spend on another better player, on getting Max Aarons when you've got Dalot?
So do you think then that we saw Williams really playing right back against Watford? Do you not think he did a good enough job to be classed as backup?
Well, this is the thing. People say backup. I don't fuck backup. Sorry. I don't want a backup right back because that's nonsense. You want a right back who's as good as the one you've got, so they're fighting for that spot. Luke Shaw and Alex Telles are both very good. Luke Shaw was poor last year. I'd say personally, I don't think he was very good. This year, he stepped up. Lo and behold, why? Because we've got another world-class left-back in the side. He's competing with another class left-back, and it's making him a level above. So if Dalot did that to Wan-Bissaka, great. But Brandon Williams, he's good, but he's not a threat to me. He's not a threat for left-back or right-back. He's not good enough. And I know you say, as a backup, did he do a good enough job? If you're classing him as a backup, which is, Romero, for example, Henderson and De Gea this year, they're both competing for one spot. And Solskjaer said, you two fight for it. And De Gea's winning at the moment, in my opinion. He stepped up again We haven't seen it the last few years, but this year he stepped up because he's got competition. It's all about having two players in each position to compete and fight. Pogba's done the same. He's fighting now, and he's realised that he's got to get his act together, and he's playing better. So you can't just have a nailed-on right-back. Liverpool have a nailed-on right-back, and I'm not being funny, but Trent has been shit this year. He has. I'm sorry. He's been awful. Defensively, shaky. Going forward, I don't care what people say. They're the glorified Burnley. They just whip balls into the box. That's all they do. So, and that's why they've drawn their last couple of games, because they've been found out. As simple as that. And people are stopping the crosses. And it's like, oh my God, where do we go from here? They've gone from scoring 4 or 5 to scoring 1 or nothing. So, genuinely, it's a worry for them as well, because they haven't got any competition. If we get competition in that spot, it's two players fighting for it, and it's whoever wants it the most. And if a player doesn't want it as much as the other, he won't get in the side. Simple as that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, before we move on to Waz's first player, then we've got quite a few people watching. So if you don't mind going and subscribing on YouTube, then that'd be amazing. And you know, we're talking about 3 signings we'd make, so we want to hear your thoughts as well. So drop those in the comments. But Waz, who's your first player going to be that we bring in this year?
I actually agreed with a lot of points that Henry made there. I thought they were very good points regarding the right back position. I was thinking about the same. However, I went with a centre back because with our centre back options, I feel with Twanzebe, we don't know if he's here or there. With Bailly, there's always an injury around the corner, and Lindelof Maguire as a partnership we know doesn't work. So I just want to solidify that position, and then we can move on. And I've gone with Jules Koundé, if you say it like that, the French centre back at Sevilla. For me, he's got all the attributes you're looking for to partner a Maguire, for example. He can bring the ball out from the back. He's got the recovery pace. He's very good in his duels, in terms of on the ground duels. He also wins his aerial duels. He played against Real Sociedad this weekend, and he was, apart from the striker, he was practically the man of the match. I just think he's got everything, and the potential of growth is there as well. And I don't think he'll be that expensive. He moved to Sevilla, I think, a couple of seasons ago from Bordeaux for 25 million euros. So I don't think Sevilla will ask for too much. I think if you put a 30 to 40 million pound bid in for Jules Koundé, you could potentially get him. So therefore, yeah, he's someone that I'd sign and I'll look at, to be honest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can't argue with that. I'm going to go along the same lines as you was. I'm going to say we need a centre back, but I think all the talk is of Pau Torres, but I don't think that's a smart option. I think me and Henry have talked about it before. I think Maguire and Lindelof are too similar, and therefore they don't work in the fact that they can't cover each other because they lack a pace. And I think Pau Torres would provide that same problem. Yeah, exactly. So it's looking less and less likely by the day, but I'm still sticking with Upamecano. I think he'd be your defensive rock for the next 10 years at least, wouldn't he? He's 22 now, I believe. So, you know, he's already up there as one of the best defenders in Europe, and he's at a very young age. So he can only really improve. I think he's got the physical attributes to work well in the Premier League. He's got the attributes as well to complement Maguire. You know, we're obviously not going to get rid of Maguire at all, whether people like it or not. So we need someone who's going to complement him. And I think he does that perfectly. I think his passing range is perfect for building attacks. We've got a comment here from Alan, saying, hello lads, Jules Koundé for me. He's agreeing with you, Was. So it must be a good shout. But yeah, Upamecano, I think if whether we get him now or whether we get him in summer for his release clause, I don't know. But I think he's got to be the one that comes in and brings that defensive stability. Now, before I come back around to you, Henry, we've got a couple of comments. One from Dylan, saying Solskjaer doesn't fancy Delo according to the reports due to his lack of application to instruction. He's got no future at the club. So, Henry, does that make the signing of Max Aarons a bit more appealing to you if it is only 20 million for one of the best young right backs in England, at least, if not the world?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, obviously, if there's truth in that, and that is the case, then fair enough. But I'm just saying we need competition, because at the moment it's going one way, and that is that Wan-Bissaka is not going to improve and not going to show how good he can be if he's got no one there to compete with him, because he knows it's his place. Simple as that.
I think that the problem we're finding as well, if you look at all the heat maps from our games, the right-hand side is very much ineffective, isn't it? And I think I'm with you, Henry. If we get another right back who's attacking minded, we can start to focus more on the right as well. Really spread opposition defenses and leave them a bit more open. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Who's your next player, Henry?
So I've gone for a centre half, as you guys went for as well. I've got two options, and obviously Upamecano is the ideal one. Everyone wants him. He's got a €42 million release clause in the summer, which is massive, and we have to get that deal done. Yeah. If Woodward doesn't get that deal done, he's going to have to find a new house. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm not being a dick, but he will have to find a new house, because that is one of the best deals you're ever going to get. That's what, £38 million, £39 million for a centre half that is, as you probably said, James, what, top 5 in the world? I'd argue at the moment.
Yeah,
so on form.
Yeah, and I watched him against Dortmund, and Dortmund obviously won the game, but he was the only player in that Leipzig team that I thought, wow, this guy can do it. Even when they're under the cosh, he can do it.
He brings the ball out really well, doesn't he?
He does, and he's got the pace to get back. But when he gets back, he's not a Lindelof. He doesn't hoof it into the stands. He doesn't take 5 or 6 seconds to take his second touch or third touch. He just gets hold of the ball and he brings it out. And he'll take on a player, which is risky, but it's worth the risk, because he usually gets past them. That's an idealistic one, which I think Liverpool might even get in before we do, which would be a shame. The other one is Ben White, and I know he's had a bit of a stinker this year, but I can't understand that. For me, there's a reason why he's played right back, and I'm not sure he's trusted by Graham Potter to play centre half, because obviously you got Webster and Dunk and Dan Burns, shit, just a beanpole. But yeah, those two are kind of playing better than him at the moment, but he's a ball-playing centre half. He's played CDM for them this year and done quite well. So he's another one who's got pace. He's got skill. He's good in the air. He's fantastic for Leeds last year. So he's another one that I'm really keen on and I really like. So yeah, I mean, those two options are my two favourites. And Ben White is not going to. He might cost 40 million or something, but he's not going to be your 60, 70 million pound range, because Brighton will accept much less than that, I'm sure. So yeah, those are my two options.
Well, listen, I haven't watched much of Ben White at all. The conversation we're having about Solly March, I haven't watched him enough to judge him, but do you think he has that pace to complement Maguire, or do you think he'll have the same struggles as Lindelof, in that he's a very good defender, he just doesn't quite work next to Maguire?
Ben White is a lot quicker than people. People don't estimate how good this guy is, and what frustrates me is what people do. They'll watch a game that their team's playing against Brighton or something, and they'll go, "Oh, he's awful because he had one bad game."
Yeah,
I'm from Brighton, so obviously watch a lot of their games. I used to have a season ticket there, so I'm interested in the club itself and watching these players develop. I said a couple of years ago, so I think it was last year or the year before, that Basuma signed for Brighton. I said this guy's going to be fantastic, and I got laughed at for saying that, because I knew he's industrious, he's busy. The reality is it takes a while to adapt, as we've shown with Fred, to the English game. So he is another player who is brilliant, but people didn't see it at the start because they were too critical of him because he lost the ball a few times or whatever. So having watched Brighton this year consistently, I can say Ben White can play CDM, he can play centre-half. They played him right back, but he is good at centre-half and he's a ball player. And if you're comfortable in midfield in the Premier League and you're a centre-half, you're going to do all right. So that's why I've gone for him.
Fair enough. You've convinced me. I wasn't convinced when you first suggested it, but yeah, now I'm thinking he'd be a good signing.
Yeah.
So before we move on to Waz, like I said, if anyone is watching, be sure to drop your suggestions for January transfer window signings that you'd want to see come in. We'd love to hear from you. But Waz, your second player?
I've gone the defensive midfield position, and I've gone for Ndidi. With this, I definitely feel we need a defensive midfielder of his standard. I think with Matic and McTominay, really they're both number 8s. We've got Matic as a true number 6, but it's his lack of mobility that's a bit of an issue. And with the centre back partnership as well, they're quite slow as well. So then you get that triangle or pivot, whatever you want to call it, where it's all a bit slow there. So with Ndidi, I think that will help our team in different ways, even tactically. We could play Ndidi on his own with, for example, Bruno and Donny slightly ahead of him if Pogba leaves, or we can play Ndidi alongside Donny and Fernandez in the 10. So there are multiple options, and I feel to get the best out of this team, we do have to move to a 3-man midfield instead of the 2-on-1, because the 2-on-1, the space is too large. But it depends on Ollie. If he's going to carry on with the 4-2-3-1, I'd go for someone like Neves alongside Fred, because we get that progressive passing. But if we're going to 4-3-3, I'd play Ndidi sitting and Donny and Fernandez either side. Because with Donny, he can drop in himself and support Ndidi and pick the ball in deep positions and then progress forward from there. And yeah, with Ndidi, for a few seasons now, he's been one of the best performers in his position defensively. And last season, his stats compared to anyone in the position, he's surpassing them. I looked at some of his stats compared to Fabinho. Fabinho is one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. Kante's dipped slightly, so I compared him to Fabinho. And his passes forward are significantly more than Fabinho. It's 446 to 380. And his tackles are 67 to 35. And his aerial duels won are 83 to 42. So there is a significant difference there. So you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. And feel the balance of Ndidi, Donny, and Fernandez is perfect. You got the creativity of Fernandez, how Pogba was. You got the intricacy of Donny, pass and move, possession, slightly how Herrera was, but an upgrade. And then you got Ndidi, an upgrade on Matic as well. So then I just think it works fine.
Fair enough. Ndidi's been a shout for years now, hasn't he? I think he's one of those names that will always be linked to United, but will never quite sign, and it'll always be a bit gutting. But I think I'm going to stick with that central midfielder role / holding midfielder role. I'm going to go with Konrad Laimer from RB Leipzig.
Player.
I think, you look at his statistics over the past couple of seasons, and he's been one of the best all-round centre midfielders in the world. His tackles won, his ball retention, his tackles won, his interceptions, his just general duels, his what would you call it? Distance covered.
His pressing is really high as well.
Yeah, pressing, his progressive passing, dribbling, everything about him. He's like Ander Herrera. He just does everything a little bit better.
Yeah,
I think he's still very young. I don't think he's past 25 yet. So he's still got a lot of life in him. I think we've got a similar situation in the midfield as we have in defence, in that I don't think Scott McTominay will be sort of withheld very much because of how much he's loved by the club themselves. I think he's going to be a staple in our team for a couple of years now, at least. So I think we need someone who's going to complement him. And I think Konrad Laimer will be like Fred is to McTominay. He'll be the busybody in and around him, but Konrad Laimer will have much better distribution. He'll actually offer things to attacks, because that's a big frustration with Fred, isn't it? He doesn't retain the ball once he's won it. His distribution is very poor. So I think he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, maybe 50 million at most, I'd imagine. If they're letting Upamecano go for 45, I can't imagine they'll ask for much more for Laimer. So I think he's been a shout for a couple of years. I'd also say, I think last summer we should have gone in for Tonali. The fact that he's gone to AC Milan for, what was it, 20 million? I think that's incredible business by them, but it's a shame we missed out on him. But yeah, I'd go with Laimer. So yeah, fair. Henry, third and final player
on Tonali. I've watched him a bit this year, and I'm not a huge fan. And Milan themselves aren't really convinced on him either. The frustration with him is, I think he got one red card and then almost got another last week as well. He's like Pirlo, just not quite as good at the defensive side of the game. Because Pirlo, people say, passing, distribution, fantastic. He was actually all right defensively as well.
Yeah.
And gave Juve, especially when he was there, a massive helping hand, and Milan as well. But Tonali, too slow, he wouldn't complement Donny and Fernandez, because you've got to have a player that's busy, quick, willing to make the challenges. And from what I've seen, Tonali's a little bit lazy at times and gets caught on the ball. And they'll also sign him if he's good enough. They'll sign him on a permanent, because I believe they've got an option to buy. in that deal. My third player is Bissouma, as I mentioned just now. The reason why I've gone for him is because, again, I watched him last year and he was okay. He was good, but he wasn't fantastic. A little bit shaky at times. But I thought it was the same as Fred. I thought, okay, this guy will come good. I said to my dad for the last 2 years, Fred will come good. And every time it was nah, rubbish. This year I said, has Fred come good? He went, yeah. I went, well, then why were you shooting me down every time I said it the last couple of years? Because you can tell no one gets into the Brazil first team, into their national side, if they're crap. No one plays in the Champions League at the level if they're crap. City wouldn't have been looking at him if he was crap. So it just took a while to develop into a good player, and his distributions got better. But I like Bissouma a lot. There's so many good things about him. So especially when he's being pressed, the press is difficult to get past. Fred's shown it in the last couple of years. And yeah, again, kind of no-brainers to get another right back. But again, Bissouma, fantastic. I love him. Just the way, his temperament as well, his attitude to every game. I never see him put his head down. I'm always seeing him running. He's always busy, industrious. He looks for the key passes that Fred and maybe McTominay don't. So he can take control of midfield. And I think this is why I think... Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I've got a question regarding Bissouma.
Yeah.
Do you think he can play on his own in a single pivot, or is he better in a double? That's my question.
I'd say he's better in a double, but he can do it on his own, because at times, I'm not going to lie, he's been carrying Davy Proper. Shit. Yeah. He's been carrying Pascal Gross at times when he's been playing either just in front or next to him.
Yeah.
So he can do either for me. And that's the beauty of it. He's such a key player for them. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Is that your argument then?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Can't disagree with you. All the players so far would be incredible signings, wouldn't they? I don't think that's too hard to argue against. But was your final player?
Well, the final one's difficult because of the price tags on both players, really. I was thinking of Grealish and Sancho. And it all depends on what Ollie wants to do, because we've seen Rashford play on the right-hand side quite often. So if Rashford's going to play there much more, then why would we sign Sancho? Because Rashford's there, no way Rashford's going to get dropped. And then on the left-hand side, that becomes more available. So we could potentially sign Grealish. But if United do sign Grealish, I think it'd be a really good option, to be honest. So I'd go ahead with Grealish, because he's not carrying that Villa team at the moment. Not carrying as in like he's doing it all on his own, but he's obviously a massive contributor. Last season, the only reason they stayed up was because of Jack Grealish. He did carry him last season. This season, we've got multiple players who are stepping up with McGinn, Watkins, and so on. But with Grealish, even when like you watch him on the eye, he's extremely tidy. When you see Bruno Fernandes, sometimes he goes straight. He'll flick the ball or take a shot from 35 yards. The best thing about Grealish is not about his dribbling or his skill, is his decision making. He makes the right pass every time. And for a skillful player, you don't necessarily expect that. You think, oh, he'll want to take him on. But he'll just keep it simple in the final third. And then as a team, you can push up as well. And I was even like looking at his stats in general. Like when I look at his Fernandes and so on stats, he's even surpassing Fernandes. Apart from goals, he's surpassing Fernandes. Like with his take-ons, his key passes and so on, is just extremely high. And for a Villa side that don't necessarily dominate games, and he's contributing such numbers for that team, imagine he played for a team that was dominant, the numbers he'd get. And I feel that with Fernandes in the number 10, because he's so advanced, Fernandes runs beyond the striker, so that space in that number 10 position, that be like vacated, and that's where Grealish can just come inside and to take the ball off the midfield. So I think the balance there is good as well. But yeah, Grealish. But even with Sancho, I'd be happy. But it ultimately depends what Ollie's thinking and Ollie's system, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with you for my final player. I think Grealish is probably one of the players I've wanted to sign most for quite a while now. I think like you said, the point that doesn't get raised enough about him is his decision making. You look you watch him on TV and there's an obvious pass there, but players don't always see it. But every single time, Grealish plays the correct pass without fail.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, while we've still got Cavani in a bit of form, I think with Grealish's deliveries, we saw them against United, the amount of problems he was causing just by balls out from out wide.
United as well, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So I think so you put some of those balls on Cavani's head, and he's getting 20 goals a season easily. So I think if you can find out a way to make him and Rashford work, so you put them on either wing, and you let Grealish sort of roam around, and Rashford just picks up the space on the pitch opposite him. If you can make that work somehow, I think we suddenly become pretty unstoppable going forward.
Yeah.
But the only problem would be price tag, like you said. I think with that 5-year contract he signed, we're now looking at 150 million for him. I think his stock's probably been raised by this season, and they were already looking for 80 million last season before that contract. So he's going to be very pricey.
Be very expensive.
He'd 100% be worth it, in my opinion, but it's just not. It's not a Glazer type move, is it, at the minute? But that brings us to that at the end of that section. As said earlier, if you've got any suggestions of players you want United to bring in, leave them in the comments. But I believe it's Henry's turn for a little bit of a rant. We're taking the return of it, the Henry's rant. So take it away.
Well, this one's a bit of a weird one, and people might not have expected this, but I'm not particularly happy with this whole Leeds situation thing. I don't know about you guys. I don't like them as a side. And I'm not being, because they're rivals and whatever, and that's fine. They can say they're rivals, but they're 14th in the league. They're not rivals to me. The concern for me is that they're getting so much praise that people are forgetting how much money they've spent on the side this year and how many goals they've conceded this year. So to put it into perspective, I looked it up yesterday and I was like, right, okay, I'm going to find the stats on these guys. It's worse than I thought. The only team that have conceded more goals than them this year is West Brom in the league. The only team to concede more is West Brom, who are going to go down. I'm pretty sure of that, because even Big Sam can't save that sinking ship right now. They are that bad. So they're getting praised because they play aesthetically pleasing, beautiful football, all that malarkey, nonsense, rubbish, crap. It's all bollocks. I'm sorry. And Gary Neville, have a reality check, Nate, because these are not that good. And I know they might be good to watch because they can win 1-0, or they can win 5-0, or they can lose 10-0, they can lose 15-0. It's fantastic to watch. Oh my God. I'll tell you what, the reason why they are the only team that play that way is because if another team did it, they get relegated. Because they spent so much money on their side and they're 14th in the league. They're not that good. And they're not that good to watch either. An under 11s team could do what they do. You just run after the ball. I could put Mo Farah in the team because he runs a marathon, because he can run for 90 minutes. It doesn't mean he's any good.
That's why they want Dan James, just for the running.
Yeah, it is. And it's actually embarrassing. They're going to buy a team of sprinters just so they can run for 90 minutes. And all they're going to do is charge after the ball. They got outclassed by League Two Crawley. Not just that, they played poorly, whatever. They got outclassed because they just run. And then people going, oh, yeah, but Bielsa, Bielsa's fantastic. The godfather of football, as I've seen people call him before. The godfather of what? He's not playing football. He's teaching his players to run after a ball. He's playing fucking rugby. That's basically what it is. What they do is just run. It's not difficult to do. I'm sorry. I'm fed up of it. I'm fed up of seeing the praise. And, even there's one person I've seen, and it was on TalkSport, I can't remember who it was, but said, guys, are you sure this is a good argument to make? Because they're not very good. They're not very good at even what they do. They miss loads of chances every game. And if another team did that, they get slaughtered. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was doing that with United, we get ripped to shreds. Yeah. Because it would be classed as technically terrible football and whatever. Because Leeds do it, oh my God, they're amazing. It makes zero sense to me. How this guy got third best coach in the world, I'll never know. Seriously, it's not difficult to do what they do. You can have all the stats and figures and facts, and you can get someone to spy on Marcus Rashford's car for a week. It doesn't matter. If you're fucking shit, it doesn't matter. Which they are. They're shit. They're not very good. And they spend so much money on doing it as well. This whole project, right? Taking 3 years or 2 years, whatever, to get to the Premier League. This project, people going, oh yeah, but they got through the Championship with it. That's like putting Owen Coyle in charge of PSG and saying, oh, win the French league. It's not difficult because they've got loads of money. They have a bigger budget than everyone else. They can just spend loads of money and just run. I can't understand it. People need to stop gassing these guys up, because every time I've watched them, I've thought, these guys, they could concede 15 every game because they just run. And they've already been found out by many teams. I mean, it's not hard to beat West Brom 5-0. I know we were poor and we only beat them 1, but it should have been 4 or 5. It's not difficult to do that to West Brom. So I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of the hype. I'm tired of seeing Leeds in the headlines every week because they're fantastic and they run and they do this and they do that. They're really not that good. And Bielsa, to me, I don't see him as an amazing coach. Just because you can spy on someone's training ground does not make you a very good coach. And just because you can get someone promoted from the Championship does not mean you're an amazing coach. So I'm tired of it. And that run, I think, is justified, personally.
Fair enough. Well, I was just about to ask you. I was just about to ask you what your thoughts on Leeds as a whole were, because obviously you see football a bit different to a lot of people. You look into it a lot deeper. So what are your sort of thoughts on Leeds as a collective? Yeah,
there's quite a few points I want to cover. So generally, I like teams that do have a system and they implement their system each game, and they try and stay consistent with that system, because the power of the system and the personnel of the players, it generally sees them through, like Liverpool, just with the consistency. However, with Leeds, it's slightly different, because it's all good sticking to your system. However, against certain opposition, you've got to tweak it a bit, because they've got Cooper at the back. They've got these Ailing and so on. These can't defend one-on-one. They can't defend one-on-one. It's okay if you're managing Barcelona, you've got Dani Alves, Gerard Piqué marking their players one-on-one, because most of the time they'll win it. These lot, they're gonna get bypassed by the likes of Rashford and so on. I think they average 2 goals conceded per game so far this season. So that tells you as a manager yourself that when I play Leeds, I'm definitely getting a chance. I'm most likely scoring. If I can keep a clean sheet, I most likely will win that game or get a result out of that game. And also, I feel like with managers like Dean Smith, Aston Villa play good football. Do Aston Villa not play good football? They're playing good football every time I watch him. He don't get the credit because probably he's not a fancy name. But with the pundits and so on, the pundits, they're always selective in what they choose. They outrage with this person, outrage with not outrage with another person. For example, you'll get Jamie Carragher, who defended Kepa for not going off when Sarri was trying to drag him off. He defended Kepa, but then a week later he's hammering Pogba. Like, you're just picking and choosing. You can't pick and choose like that. And if any other manager was like that naive, for example, against United, where he played a single pivot and we just had the freedom of the park to run into, McTominay, like dream day, he's just running and no one picking him up. And then we beat him after 2-3 minutes as well. But if that was another manager, for example, imagine that was Villas-Boas or say Alan Pardew, maybe, or Hodgson. The easy targets, they would have got slaughtered. But with Bielsa, it's like they're scared to say something.
I've said before about Bielsa, and I said it. I don't know whether I said it in the group chat, James. I said he is just an exotic Argentinian Alan Pardew, because he is. They don't play fantastic football. It's not revolutionary football, because it's something different we haven't seen before. Why haven't we seen it? Because teams would get fucking relegated if we saw it. They go down with 2 points. Seriously, it's just. Yeah. And with Solskjaer, what he had to do, the reason why we played Dan James is because he went, right, you stand on the halfway line for the whole game. Stand on the halfway line, we'll knock it over the top, you run. It's not difficult, because all they do is throw everyone forward. You've got Liam Cooper playing centre forward, trying to press someone, and there's a massive gap at the back. If that were Klopp, Poch when he was at Spurs, Ollie, Guardiola, if that were one of the top managers, I'm not going to mention Lampard in there yet, if it were one of the top managers, they'd be getting hammered for that. They'd be going, remember against Spurs when we were all over the place? Everyone's going, what is going on with this United side? And then Leeds concede 6 to us, and everyone's going, oh, but they play nice football.
Yeah.
What? They
Yeah.
don't. They don't. And even Leeds fans are like, this guy is such a dick because he makes so many stupid decisions.
Yeah.
In the Crawley game, I think he made 3 half-time subs when it was 0-0.
Did you see the starting formation as well? It was 3-3-1-3.
Yeah, it's literally, guys, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put like 2 people at the back and the rest of you just run. That's what it is. And then they got, Casilla yesterday was terrible. But that sweeper keeper, the reason why he's making so many mistakes is because he's been left to hang out to dry by the manager. Every game, he's having to play as a CDM. So, yeah, I mean, it looks nice when you're dark, James. Looks nice there. No, anyway, I'm just tired of this hyping them up, and they're not that good, and they concede. I know they score a lot of goals, and that's fine, but they concede a lot, and they're 14th. I think they're 14th, maybe higher. I don't know, but they're no better than mid-table, and they've spent. I think they spent over 90 million this year.
Do you remember when? Sorry, do you remember when Arsenal used to play really good football with like Nasri, Fabregas, and so on, Van Persie, and they used to get slammed weekly because they'll lose a game like 3-1, 3-2.
Yeah,
they'll slam. Wenger's got no midfield discipline. They're lacking a defensive midfielder, and so on and so on. But with Leeds, it's like they get a bypass. It just doesn't add up. Like Wenger was called tactically naive by Gary Neville on Monday Night Football, but Bielsa's playing the sublime football. But Arsenal played better football than Leeds. It just doesn't add up.
They spent upwards of 50 million on forwards this year. Leeds, Rafinha, Rodrigo is about 30 million. He's been pretty okay, and Poveda as well. They've spent money on these players, and they're not getting hammered, and I can't understand why. Because they spent more than United this year, and they're 14th. They're not top 7, top 8. Because I'd be praising them if they were that high up. But it's clearly not working. Their amazing tactics aren't working because they're not in the top half of the table. They're not competing for Europe, even though they spent all that money. So, people, please just stop hyping these guys up. Because and I know people say United fans, rivals, whatever. As I said before, they're not rivals to me. It's bullshit what it is from the media, hyping these guys up, because that is not beautiful football to me.
Yeah.
Because football is supposed to be effective. You're supposed to win games. You're not aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Well, the most glamorous teams don't win the league. Liverpool last year, they were good, but they weren't fantastic. And they won games 1-0 and whatever, and they were scraping wins at times.
Yeah.
But they won the league because they were effective. Not because they're glamorous or beautiful at football, or they've got an exotic head coach who, spies on people and puts drones in people's toilets or whatever. Seriously, I can't understand it. It doesn't make any sense.
Thing is as well, sorry, Henry. Thing is, with the Premier League, if you can see those chances, I'm sorry, but the Premier League is a different level. Our strikers are scoring. Our Premier League strikers, they're scoring. Championship strikers, they need like 3-4 chances to get one. But Premier League strikers, most of them are 1 and 2. They're just prolific.
You're up against Salah, Mane, Jesus, Bernardo Silva, Sterling, De Bruyne. You're not against Callum fucking Patterson.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
You're up against the top level now, and you can't play that bullshit football because you get relegated. Seriously, I just can't stand it, and it's everywhere. Everywhere. People go,
they'll win some and they'll lose some. That's how it's going to work this season. They probably won't even get any much draws. It'll be either wins or draws. The wins probably will eventually keep them up, but long term, unless they improve their players significantly and get like top players, if they have Virgil van Dijk and say Ruben Diaz and another player at the back, and allow your fullbacks to go that advanced, or allow your midfield to go that advanced, because they'd cover it at the back, like how Rion Vidic would cover it on their own 2v2. But these defenders, they can't cope.
But if you're here, Liverpool, City. I'm not going to say us in that bracket yet because I think our league position is a little bit false personally, but again, just an opinion. If you're one of the top sides, you can do that. You can afford to do that because you've got good players that are effective. But you don't see Brighton doing that. You don't see West Brom doing that. Sheffield United, you don't see doing that. Even though they play this overlapping centre-back stuff, which they got found out for this year, and they've now got 2 points all season because they got found out. So if you're a top side, it works. But Leeds are not a top side, and it doesn't work because they haven't got good enough players. And he won't change his methods. He reminds me of a 80-year-old farmer who's like, well, I'll tell you what we did in the war. Well, it's not the war now, is it? So don't fucking do it. As simple as that. Like, he needs to change his methods or else they're going to be in big trouble because other teams will keep improving their squads and Leeds play one way. So as soon as you found out how to beat them, it's easy to do it. The best managers change and adapt. They don't stay the same way. Klopp adapted. Guardiola, I mean, he adapted a little bit, to be fair, with his centre-halves and everything. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I know I've been critical of him. He's adapted. That's why we're playing so well. So the top managers adapt. They don't stick to the same methods because it gets them sacked. That's what happens.
You can have your philosophy to be consistent, but what you do in certain games, you make certain tweaks. For example, if you see, look at what's the name, Man City this season. A lot of the time they played with a double pivot, and they with Rodrigo and Gundogan. But because Fernandinho was so good, and you had David Silva's ball retention and Kevin De Bruyne, they could play Fernandinho on his own. But now because there's no ball retention in Silva, there's no Silva, and Fernandinho is obviously, even though he's still good somehow at his age, he is like pretty much past his best. He's not really going to play that role on his own. Therefore, they play two. So even that game against United, it was obvious that Calvin Phillips was outnumbered. Because Calvin Phillips, he's a defensive midfielder on his own, but also he's got to try covering his fullbacks and supporting his fullbacks in the 2v1. So then there's a massive gap in midfield. And McTominay, let's be honest, doesn't really score goals from like often driving through midfield. Like he'll score here and there, but he's not a prolific midfield scorer. But that day, it was a dream day because he's just going forward at 3-1.
I'm gonna ask your opinion on something in a second. On Patrick Bamford actually, because he's been hyped up massively, right? And people saying Patrick Bamford for England and whatever. That would be like, for me, the equivalent of Ricky Lambert playing for England. Like that bad. He misses so many chances. He's not prolific in front of goal. Yeah, he gets the odd hat trick, but it takes him 25 shots to do it. So I want your guys' opinion on it. I'll go to you, James. What do you think of Patrick Bamford as a player?
I'll start by saying Ricky Lambert did play for England, didn't he? So
no, that's what I meant. It would be the equivalent to me.
I mean, he's getting goals, isn't he? I get it. Whether it takes him 50 chances or not, his team are creating enough that he is getting goals. So I don't think there can be that many complaints. I didn't rate him in the Championship at all, but he's personally, I'd like to see what you two think about it. But personally, I don't. From a Leeds point of view, I won't have any complaints. He's scoring goals. He's one of the league's top scorers, playing for a promoted team. So, defensively they've got their issues, but I don't think you can really complain at the strike force that they've got going for him.
Waz, what do you think of him?
I was just trying to look at his big chances. Missed in the Premier League. Yeah, he's number one. I thought he was going to be number one. Yeah, he's number one with 12. Chris Wood with 12, and Ollie Watkins with 10. I knew he'd be top. With Patrick Bamford, he's a good player. Obviously, he's getting his goals, but he's not going to take Leeds to the next level. But if that's what they want, then so be it. His link-up play is all right. He's got like a nice little touch with him, and he's got a decent finish, although he obviously clearly misses a lot of chances because he missed 12 so far this season. However, with England, he ain't got a chance. Look how much strikers we've got for England. We've even got inverted forwards. He ain't got a chance for England, to be honest. Even the likes of even like Callum Wilson is probably ahead of him. Ollie Watkins is definitely ahead of him. Even I know Vardy's retired, but I'd personally still take Vardy to the next tournament. I'll just call him up just for the tournament. Yeah, so he ain't got a chance for England.
James, can you just bring up that Bamford, Bielsa comment again? Because I want to dissect this as much as I can, so you guys understand what I'm really on about. With this, I understand he's had methods that have been brought through. Pochettino said live on Sky that he was one of his idols, and he looked up to him as a coach and took different parts of his style. The difference is that style doesn't work now. It is not as effective as it was in the 90s. Because, okay, right, let's put this in the plainest way possible. The Spitfire in World War II was revolutionary. It was amazing. God, it was fantastic. Now it would be made to look like shit by much better, more developed technology that we've kind of got throughout the years. So that was fantastic in the 90s, and the pressing style is amazing or whatever. But football's evolved. That doesn't work. It doesn't work as well as it would. He might have won a few league titles with it and stuff, but it doesn't work now. It's not.
Henry, would you not say that all the successful teams at the minute deploy a pressing style? Liverpool, Bayern Munich, they're both.
I'm saying
that press.
Okay, a pressing style is fine, but a headless chicken pressing style is not fine because they are getting found out. And I'm sorry, you don't see Virgil van Dijk get caught out on the edge of the opposition box by getting dragged in by another player. They play man to man, and that just we put 6 past these guys. We put 6 past them. And Liverpool were a bit shocked at first. Well, oh my God, what's going on? But they found them out, and that's why they won that game in the first game of the season. Teams have found out what Leeds are about and what they do, and they're countering it because they do it every single game. They do the same thing every game. No tweaks, just the same thing.
Yeah.
It might have been revolutionary in the 90s, and that's fine. And, he might have... teams do adopt that pressing style. You're right, James. They do. The top teams adopt that pressing style. But they don't adopt the exact one. They've tweaked it to make it more effective. Bielsa has kept it the same for the last, I think he's been in coaching for like 25, 30 years at least. So he kept it the same throughout the whole time. And he's getting found out now. That's what's happening. Better teams will punish you if you play the same way.
Yeah.
And the proof will be in the pudding. I don't think they'll go down. You're right, Wise. I don't think they'll go down because they'll score a lot of goals. But
I think with Bielsa, it's great playing the high press, but it's sometimes it's with the formations and certain things, certain tweaks. He overdoes it. Like you're playing 3-3-1-3 against Crawley. Like I'm sure even if you played a 4-4-2, you would have beaten Crawley. Do you get what I mean? Like he had to change the formation. He outworks himself. Like that's when it gets unnecessary. I don't mind the high press. I don't mind your fullback pushing forward. I don't mind the high intensity. I don't mind creating loads of chances. That's what I actually like. That's what I like in football. But it's the overthinking and the overdoing it, and it's trying to reinvent things that don't need reinventing. Could have beaten Crawley in a 4-3-3 formation. You would have beaten him, but you've messed around with the team. The players don't really know whether they're coming or going, and they had literally no one on the they had no wing backs. They'd played 3-3. They didn't have any wing backs. They were all down the middle. So there's so much space on the sides, and their winger was through every time. And one of the Crawley goals came from the wide area. So I just think it just overdoes it, and I think it overdoes it to show oh, look at me, how clever I am. But then he outsmarts himself.
The key point of this whole thing is the godfather of football got outclassed by a PE teacher. That's what everyone's called Solskjaer this year, last year, whatever, a PE teacher. That he's managed to outsmart the third, according to whoever did the rankings, whatever, the third best coach in the world has been outclassed by a PE teacher. Not just him, others as well. And teams are figuring these guys out. You can play that formation the same way as much as you want. Go ahead, do it, Bielsa. But I don't understand the praise, because if other teams are doing it, they would get absolutely hammered for doing it. So it's completely unjustified praising them. Praise the manager for the last 30 years. Fine, say he was great at Newell's and stuff, and that's okay. But that's in the past. That's not now. Stop praising him for stuff that he's doing wrong in the league now, because he's got outsmarted by better coaches. Maybe not even better coaches. So it's revolutionary, fair enough. It's new. We haven't seen it before, but there's a reason for that. And that's because it doesn't work. It's not as effective as other ways of football.
So with that, Henry, you also like got not understand, but like we know how the media works. It's like it's whatever's trendy in it. Let's be honest. If it's trendy to praise Bielsa, it's trendy to praise Bielsa. It was trendy to hammer Sterling 5 years ago, and they all went for him. But once Sterling fought back, and it's trendy now to praise Sterling, we'll praise him for the slightest thing ever. So they just go with the trends. That's how it is.
It's trends, but fans are getting on board with it as well. And I've seen on social media, fans, not just Leeds fans, other fans are getting on board with it as well.
There's some are, some not.
But I just can't understand it. And these pundits will lose credibility by doing this. They'll lose all credibility because they're praising something that isn't working. So, it's just, to me, doesn't make any sense. And it's almost frustrating to see it as well, because I like watching football, and I like Neville's commentary and stuff as well, because it's different. It's a bit more creative than the boring people like McManaman who are so biased you can't believe it. But they're being blindsided, in my opinion, by something that's not as fantastic as they're making it out to be. And they're also, by pushing their agenda forward, they're losing credibility as pundits. So it's almost a word of advice. Just stop getting on board with this, because it's bollocks.
Well, they're pundits for a reason, innit? Because if they really had something about them, they'd work in the football game. If I had the finances to do all my like UEFA licenses, I'd love to work in the game. The opportunities they get, whether it's in radio or TV or in football, if they really wanted to, they could ask a manager, "Can I be your assistant or third assistant?" And that manager most likely will say, "Yeah." In Colo Toure, the assistant at Leicester. You've got John Terry at Aston Villa. You've got Carrick at United. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, if they really wanted it, they could get it. But if
Neville's such a tactical genius, why didn't he succeed in Valencia?
Fair enough.
Why didn't he succeed at a top European club with the finances? So, yeah.
Well, anyone got anything else to add before we wrap it up?
I think
big game tomorrow, innit? United.
Very big game. Very big game.
What do you guys think will happen?
1-0, we'll slug it out.
Yeah, I think we will win it, because we got a lot of match winners at United. That's the thing with United. Even though I've said we're in a title race, it's not necessarily how good we are. It's just that what's around us, no one's really running away with a title. As long as we're there and thereabouts, and we've got match winners, we're just going to keep winning. Fernandes match winner, Pogba match winner, Rashford match winner. All right, Martial dipped a little. Cavani match winner. You're going to win games of football. So as long as you're there.
If Lindelof's playing, Chris Wood will score.
Lindelof's injured. Ollie's
okay,
confirmed.
well, I still think the aerial presence is a bit of a concern of mine. That's the only real concern. But I still think Chris Wood will score. And Martial, you're right with that comment. Martial does love a goal at Burnley. And
so I was reading something. So Martial has scored in every single game he's played at Turf Moor, and every single goal he's scored has been the only goal of the match. So take what you want from that.
1-0 Martial then. No, I think it will be a slog. I really do. Burnley are becoming even more and more difficult to beat as the season goes on. So, yeah, this game stands us in good stead going to Anfield. And going into Anfield, just please attack them. It'd be nice if we didn't play 7 or 8 defenders, because they are so vulnerable, Liverpool. A 17-year-old academy player bagged against them because he outpaced one of their centre-halves. So if that's not evidence enough about how we can rip that team apart, then I don't know what is.
Fair enough. Well, on that happy note, we'll call it a day. If you're still watching it, we've got one more comment before we end up. So, aspects of his philosophy have been adapted from modern managers. I agree with you about saying he's getting found out, but he's revolutionised football with his ideas. He's an innovator, hence the obsession. I think, given the fact that every successful team is using pressing now, I think that comment is pretty spot on.
That's fair, but yeah, what I agree with that in the sense that now it just doesn't work. So if he doesn't adapt, if he doesn't adapt, he'll get sacked, and he'll get known for he'll get known in England for getting the sack at Leeds, which isn't a very good thing. So it's either adapt or be shipped out.
Fair enough. Well, if you're still watching to this point, thank you ever so much for watching. It's really appreciated. Be sure to like and subscribe because we're about 7 subscribers away from 100 now, so it'd be really great to hit that. But Waz, massive thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, check out his Twitter account. He's doing some really good stuff on United as a whole and statistics and analytics. So go check him out.
Cheers, mate. I enjoyed being on the podcast. I was just thinking about what.
It's good fun.
Yeah, it's always good to have you on. As ever, Emery, thank you for joining me.
No problem.
And once again, thank you for everyone for watching, and we'll see you midweek for the return of Trafford Tactics, I believe, all going well.
Yep.
So, even more conversations about Leeds, spoiler alert. But on that note, we'll see you midweek.
Manchester United are the champions of Europe.